We're talking today with Kenneth Ziebart of St. Joseph, Michigan, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, start us off with some background on yourself. To begin with, where and when were you born?
I was born on May 23rd, 1928.
And where were you born?
In St. Joseph, Michigan.
Okay, so did you grow up there?
I grew up in town till I was about 7 years old, and then we moved to a farm about 6 miles out of town.
Okay. Now, had your family been farmers all along, or did your father lose his job in the 30s, or what happened?
Well, he lost his job, I think, in the 30s, but he did have another job. I mean, besides the thing. But my mother was a farmer.
Okay.
In the family, she come from.
He was a butcher.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, you were still pretty young then, but do you remember hearing about Pearl Harbor?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. And how did you learn about it?
Well, I was had the radio on. I was listening to the football game. Now, according to the things, it said that it was the Bears were playing the New York Giants.
Hmm?
I would differ that. I would say they were playing the Green Bay Packers that day, but I could be wrong.
Okay. But you were listening to the Bears game?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it comes on there. Now,
They stopped the program and announced at Pearl Harbor.
Okay, yeah. Now, did the start of the war affect things very much in your community?
Oh, definitely, I think so.
In what ways?
Factories had to change from making wash machines to making ammunition.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And stuff, and
Did you have rationing and that kind of thing?
What?
Was there rationing?
well, definitely rationing, yes. Not so much for the farmers,
Right.
but for city people, I think it was pretty hard on them.
Yeah. Because you got more gas because you were farmers?
Yes,
Yeah.
we received more gas.
Yeah, and you could grow your own food, at least some of it, so.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now, did you, as as World War II dragged on, did you think it might last long enough for you to get into it?
Well, I didn't. Actually, I went through 8th grade
Mm-hmm.
and then decided to farm.
Okay.
I didn't go any further in my education, so I don't think well, I remember my 8th grade teachers telling me that we would be in the Army
Mm-hmm.
in 4 years from when
Okay.
I was, but it didn't happen exactly that way.
At least not exactly that way. Yet you do eventually wind up in the Army.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that happen?
Well, when I was 18, I reported to the thing, and I evidently missed the final draft
Mhm.
of the World War II.
Right.
So but they kept the
They were-
information, you
right.
know, from there, and I think I wasn't in the first group that they was picked from our area, but
Mhm.
I was in the second group
Okay.
for the Korean War.
All right. Yeah, because the Korean War, because you registered for the draft, so you're eligible for a certain number of years. And during that time period, the Korean War starts. It was in June of 1950. So when did you get drafted?
I got drafted in 1950,
Yeah.
the 17th of November.
Right. Yeah. So, and at that point, they now need a lot more men in the Army.
Yeah.
And so the draft gets expanded and they find you. Okay. Where did you go for basic training?
Fort Leonard Wood Missouri.
All right. And what was that like?
Well, I kind of didn't mind it because I could get a ride home on weekends if we got passes
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. I know that we took basic training, and I know that our basic training was over at Christmas time,
Mm-hmm.
and
So that was only about 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Now, what did the basic training consist of?
Infantry training, basic. It was all infantry type.
Well, how much emphasis was there on discipline, following orders?
Well, I think it was pretty sharp,
Mm-hmm.
at keeping us straight.
Okay.
Learned how to make a bed, one thing.
Right. Okay. Now, how easy or hard was it for you to adjust to life in the Army?
I think I had an easy time adjusting.
Okay.
I didn't have no problems.
Okay. Well, as a farmer, you were probably in pretty good shape.
Yeah.
So you could do the physical work. And you were used to obeying orders?
Yeah, well, yes.
Okay. So those are the things that throw people off. And you were you a little bit older than a lot of the guys you were training with?
Yeah, I think I was. Basically, probably the group that I got called in was about the same age.
Mm-hmm.
But our cadre that was trying to train us was younger than we were.
Okay.
And this did create a little problem with them.
Mm-hmm.
I think more so than it did with us older
Okay.
fellows.
So those guys were guys who went in when they were 18, and they've got a bunch
Yeah.
of you guys who were
They
21.
were in, well, they were in reserve,
Yeah.
see,
Okay.
and they got called in, and that's how this went about.
All right. Now, you have 6 weeks, and after the 6 weeks of basic, do you get to go home and come back, or?
Well, there was a 6-week training
Yeah.
thing that I didn't get in. I
Okay.
was one of the few that didn't be having my name with Z.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't, all the places were full.
Okay.
And these fellows all went to, got that training, went to Camp Belvoir, Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Virginia, maybe?
That was in engineering.
Yeah. Okay.
And come back after 6 weeks. There was that was the one part where really there was nothing for us to do that was left there.
So you basically, you finish basic training, and then you sit around Fort Leonard Wood?
Well, they didn't let us sit around. We were pulling KP and guard duty
Mm-hmm.
on a pretty basic
All right.
time, I mean, they made sure, I mean, there was stuff that
Okay.
we could do.
All right. Now, did you eventually?
Personally, I ended up in the hospital. And right after basic training, because we were sent out to the rifle range with a machine gun to get rid of some old ammunition.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, all day long we're shooting trees down at Fort Leonard Wood, and I got kind of carried away a little, and I said, I'm going to shoot left-handed, and I had a vaccination on my thing, and that got, well, I got infected and put in the hospital for a few days,
All right.
and
So that. Okay. So
then
you're.
we went on from there.
All right. Now, did you eventually get any specialized training? Did you train
No.
as an engineer?
No, I didn't.
Oh, so you just had basic training, and then you didn't get to go to Fort Belvoir with the other
The
guys.
only special training that I did get was probably laying train tracks and stuff like that. We had a little bit of that stuff, but other than for what we went into when I did go to Korea,
Okay.
I was not trained really on that.
All right.
area.
So when did you go to Korea?
Well, let's.
Or did you have more time in the U.S. first?
I'd say about a year from when I
Okay.
went in,
All right.
and but took 13 days to get to
Right.
Yokohama.
Okay. Well, let's go back now to that first year, though. So you had your basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, and then did you just stay at Fort Leonard Wood after that, or did they send you
We
somewhere
were
else?
shipped out to the West Coast
Okay.
to California,
All right.
to Camp Beale.
Mm-hmm.
It was Beale Air Force Base after we went in.
Okay.
And we did work a little bit there. I got a little training on machinery and stuff. It was altogether different than what farming I did.
Okay. Now, is this the kind of machinery that they use to maintain runways and that
Yes.
sort of thing?
Yes,
Okay.
built runways.
All right.
And
Okay. So you are getting some on-the-job training.
yeah,
now, but in the regular duty assignment.
and that was all summer until fall
Mm-hmm.
when we
Okay.
were sent.
Now, what part of California is Camp Beale in?
Camp Beale is, have you ever heard of Marysville in Yuba City? It's east of San Francisco,
Okay.
about 50 miles from Sacramento.
All right. So kind of central California.
Northeast
Yeah.
of so it'd probably be a little bit north of
Okay.
Sacramento.
All right. Now, was that in the valley there, and so where Sacramento is, or
Well,
fairly flat?
it was pretty flat, I thought. There was a lot of fruit
Yeah.
raised in that area. And like I say, you could see the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
We were close to the mountains too. Because if we had a little pass to get out of there, we could ride to Nevada City and Green Valley. These were a couple small towns
Mhm.
between Reno
Yeah.
and there. In fact, even I went one weekend to Reno just see what it was like.
Right. Okay. I mean, did you go skiing or just go into the mountain, go into the towns just to do something?
Yeah, we just mostly scenic stuff.
Okay. All right. Now, did you think that maybe you'd get to spend your whole time there?
No. We realized we were in a camp and we were going somewhere.
Okay.
But they fooled us because we had to pack up all the stuff and we were sure we were going to Alaska.
Mm-hmm.
But that wasn't what it was.
All right. Okay. So now at the you get kind of into the fall then toward the end of the year. Now you get to go to Korea.
Now we are going to Korea.
Okay. And how did they get you to Korea?
We got on a boat with 600 Navy men, took care of it, and about 3,500 soldiers
Okay.
on one boat.
All right. Now, was this a troop transport?
It was, I kind of forgot the name of it, but it had a sister ship that we come back on.
Okay.
I know the two of them were very much alike.
All right. And were these like APAs, I mean big transport ships, or are you not?
Yeah, I think it was a big transport.
Okay.
for this.
All right. But it wasn't a converted ocean liner or something?
It was converted to moving troops.
Okay.
I mean,
All right.
we had close to 5,000 people on it.
All right. Okay. Now, how does that actually work in terms of feeding people or anything else? How do you spend
Well,
your time?
we got 2 meals a day. If you weren't seasick.
Mm-hmm.
And that was 1 in the morning and different shifts, and depending upon what part of the boat you were in.
Mm-hmm.
And when in there to get it. It was, he never got a noon meal.
Right.
He got a,
Tablet's ringing. All right. Now, what was the weather like on the way over?
well, we ran into the end of the typhoon that hit the Hawaiian Islands.
Okay.
We were north of there. It took us 13 days before we landed in Yokohama.
Okay. And then,
How much longer do you think you're gonna be?
Probably half hour.
all right.
Okay, why don't we call it, I'll call you in half an hour. Or
Okay,
actually, why don't you call me in half an hour?
sure.
All right,
All right.
yeah,
Thanks, Jackie.
yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Okay, so you settled that part. All right. Now, did you get seasick yourself?
Well, no, not seasick. I had a friend who was a doctor, but he worked with the doctors, you know,
Right.
and he got me with the pills and
Okay.
kept me going until I'll tell you, one fellow across from me, we stand up, you know, to eat and stuff, and the thing, he got sick while we was there, and he threw up across the table, and I mean, I couldn't, it fooled me for eating at that time,
Yeah.
but I remember my friend, he got me some oranges. He said, just keep sucking on them, you'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
And I did all right.
Okay. Now, when you got to Yokohama, did you get off the ship?
Yes, but right on a railed car
Okay. And then where did they send you?
to Sasebo, Japan,
Okay.
where we got on what they called a ferry boat,
Mm-hmm.
a wooden boat,
Oh.
and it was a beautiful ship. I mean, evidently it was at one time it must have been a Japanese treasure, you know, or whatever. But that only took us overnight
Mm-hmm.
to get to Busan, Korea.
Right. And then from there, where did you go?
Well, we went about, I think it was around 6 miles out of Busan
Mm-hmm.
to Case 2,
Okay. So that's an airbase.
Beale Air Force Base.
All right. And once you got there, now what is your job?
Well, I started out, I was the oiler on a train, on a crane,
Okay.
and back then, you know, you got a job. And you had a job for 12 hours straight every day. And the fellow that was operating the crane, the second day we were out there, he says, hey, you think you're gonna take and operate this crane? He says, I gotta go into where the thing for a little while. I said, yeah, I think I can do it. He said, well, get up there and show me you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I did, and filled a couple trucks with dirt, you know, out on rice paddy to extend the airport. And he was satisfied, and so was the rest, but I never saw him the rest of the day
Okay.
until I got back into camp. And he said, well, now we're going to 3 8-hour things. Well, that didn't work out too good. Well, we got, they decided, well, they brought us all over,
Mm-hmm.
and we was one company, and we're all going back the same time. So they decided to split us into 3 groups, and I got in the group that went up to Seoul and K-16
Okay.
at that time.
All right.
Uh,
So you spend most of your time up at a base near
Yeah.
Seoul rather than down
Yeah,
near Busan.
and there I worked a night shift, 12-hour shift.
Okay.
But I didn't operate a crane or anything at first until the fellow that was operating this wasn't a crane, but it was we call them dipsticks, but it was a hydraulic
It's like a backhoe or?
Yeah, it tobacco like,
Mm-hmm.
only went forward,
Okay.
you know. And then I got that job for the rest of
Okay.
my time in
So why did they need them around the clock?
what's that?
Well, I would think you do most of that kind of work during the day, wouldn't you? When you
Well-
can see something?
This, where we did it, they had we had 6 rock crushers.
Mm-hmm.
And we were picking the rock out of the thing, which was this mountain, the hill was solid rock in places. And there was times when we'd have to dynamite the rock to get it out of there. We couldn't even with shovel get it out.
Okay.
And
But you could do that around the clock.
yeah, we very seldom run the asphalt plant and the crushers during the night.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they didn't even have lights in that area. The generator was down near the river. It was right along the Han River,
Okay.
and the generator was in that place.
All right. So if you had a night shift, what would you do? If you had to work, in the middle of the night.
Yeah, well, after about 2 months, before that, I was just over about 50 Korean workers
Mm-hmm.
that were picking rocks
Okay.
and stuff to go to the crusher. And then after that, I operated the crane, which was probably for about 5 or 6 months,
Okay.
or the shovel.
All right. Now, on the base where you were at, then, was it dangerous at all? Were there any attacks?
Well, when we landed at Busan,
Mm-hmm.
they had 6 square miles of land on the southern part. We could hear the shells.
Okay. So you arrive in when you wouldn't have gotten to Busan though until long after the Busan perimeter fight.
In fact, I think it was just after. I'm thinking it was right after MacArthur landed at Incheon,
Okay. Well, he lands at Incheon in September of 1950.
September.
So,
Yeah.
so you're not there yet.
Yeah.
And they break out of the Busan perimeter about the same time.
Well, no, we didn't break out until he cut the Chinese off.
That's still September.
Yeah.
That's it. So that happens. Then we push north, and then they push back south again. So when did you get to Korea?
What?
When did you arrive in Korea?
I would say it probably mid-November of. Well, I know it was November of 1950 because I was thinking 51.
51. Yeah. Okay.
19,
All right.
because we had our Thanksgiving dinner on that train going down to Sasso.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So basically, by then, the front has basically stabilized across the middle
Yeah, by then,
of the country.
They had the Chinese trapped, is what happened.
Right.
And I never realized there was that many Chinese.
Yeah.
I happened to see a movie of there, and they said there was 350,000 were trapped, in
You don't really
in
trap.
South Korea.
Oh, okay. Well,
That gave up, and that surrendered at that time. Now, where they kept them, I don't know. They couldn't have kept them in Korea, I know that.
well, I'm not sure about the numbers and so forth, but there was a lot of back and forth early on, and we had pushed
Yeah.
them back the last time. Oh, in any case,
Okay.
so it's fairly settled. But I was asking then sort of how dangerous things were, and you were talking about being down at Busan. I mean, did the base down at Busan get attacked at all? Did K2 get hit by enemy aircraft or anything?
Oh, well, it was they were stopped at down at that area.
Yeah.
They had stopped at you.
Oh, yeah,
And we had our, and I say we, I mean our army, had them, there was a river that went across from one side to the other, and at that river, they had set up
Right. I was just asking, but when you were there, so when you were there, when you were at K2,
Yeah.
so that's end of 52, beginning of 50, or end of 51, beginning of 52. At that time, did the enemy attack the base at all?
I think they were driven back already.
Yeah, yeah.
I spent one night, I remember, on guard duty at a rail station.
Mhm.
I could hear the shells, were going off, but other than that, I didn't see no action really.
Okay. Now, when you got up to the area around Seoul, and you've got some pictures of battle damage or whatever, damaged buildings and things like that. So,
Seoul was flattened
Yeah.
at that time.
Mhm.
There was, I think, 1 or 2 buildings left in the city. But,
Armies had gone through it several times by
Yeah.
that time, I guess.
Yeah.
But the base that you were on, did your bases ever get attacked by enemy air units or?
only, I'm going to say only one time, small train or plane come across one night and dropped a few hand bombs in the middle,
Mhm.
and we had to fill the holes the next day so that the planes could land.
Okay. So mostly it was pretty quiet then.
Yeah.
All right. So basically you spent your time kind of running equipment and now you mentioned
Like I say, it was just like a job in this country. Only we worked 12 hours instead of 8 hours.
okay. Now you mentioned that for a while there you were supervising a gang of Korean laborers.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
Well, that wasn't bad at all because these Koreans were hard-working people,
Mm-hmm.
and they you didn't have to tell them too much. And they knew what they was going to do, and they did it.
Did they have a Korean supervisor or somebody? That
Yes, somebody that could talk English.
Right.
Because that's the only way we communicated. Most of them couldn't talk English.
Okay. Now, when you were living on these bases, what kind of accommodations did you have?
Well, you saw the picture of the tents.
Mm-hmm.
We lived in tents. In my tent there was I think of 23, and I made the 24th. When I got in there, I was put in charge of the tent because I had a corporal's
Okay.
thing, and I thought that was funny because all these guys that were just privates or
Mhm.
private first class. I mean, in fact I said to the guy, there must be somebody with more thing, he said, it's your tent.
Okay.
Well, I never actually met but one guy, and he worked at night with me, and that's how I got in touch with them. The other 22, they were gone out in the village. They had their wives in the village. So
Okay.
I didn't have no problems there at all.
All right. So you had a big tent and not a lot of occupants.
Hmm?
You had a big tent and a lot of the guys were gone during the night?
Well, I don't know what they did. Well, yeah, they were all gone.
Okay.
In fact, the color, there was a colored fellow, the fellow that was on duty on night shift. He drove a water truck. He seen him. We had water all the time and stuff in our area. And he was real nice. In fact, he come to me, and I remember the first night I didn't have to go to work at first until the next day anyway. And I see these guys coming in, and everyone was black.
Mm-hmm.
And I never saw that before.
Mm-hmm.
And I must have really shown that to this fellow. And he come and he says, don't worry, he says, I'll take care of him. He was next in line behind me. He says, they'll all be gone tonight. He says, they'll be back tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So were there a lot of blacks from the engineering units, or?
In this one there was,
Okay.
we had 85% black.
Because during World War II, there had been a lot of all-black engineer
Yeah.
units who did things like build the Burma Road and so forth.
But we had, like I say, there was about 15% white.
Because they were integrating the Army by that time. So they were starting to mix. So the
Yeah.
unit you were
Oh, yeah.
in may well have been originally a black unit, and they were rotating some white troops into it.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's see. So you got the big tents. Now, are the tents heated? Do you have stoves
Oh,
in
yeah,
there?
we
or-
had two little stoves in there, the oil stoves.
Mhm.
But the one thing, well, we were up north there then, it got cold.
Yeah.
But very little snow.
Mm-hmm.
Very little, we saw very little snow up there.
Okay. And did you have a lot of Koreans working on the base?
Oh yeah, we had our own houseboy, and they'd have them in the where the cooks were.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of Koreans working in there.
Okay. And were you ever worried that some of them might be on the other side?
No, I didn't worry about it because they all seemed nice. They were real nice. I always thought, but they could have been. I mean, because you can tell one from another.
All right. Now, did you have much of a sense of what was going on in the actual war, or were you just minding your own business?
Well, it was the 38th parallel was stopped. I mean,
Yeah.
there was no real fighting going on. I don't think. Speaking of it, like I say, it was just like a job,
Right.
a regular job. You like it was in this country.
Okay. Now, did you spend all of your time on the base, or did you get to go into Seoul or go anywhere else?
I went into Seoul one time, and that was when they have the monsoons in Korea,
Mm-hmm.
and we couldn't work out in the at night
Yeah.
at the quarry because the river was high and
Mhm.
the flood waters were coming in, and but if you didn't have guard duty, you could have time to go into Seoul or Yeongdeunpo, which was a kind of the main city for industry
Mm-hmm.
in Korea. And in fact, we had to vacate our area because of the channel going around it. It was like a it was a island,
Mm-hmm.
and we had to vacate it for about a couple of days
Okay.
and get out of there because they was afraid the bridge was gonna wash out.
So you got a little bit of time off for that.
Yeah.
All right. And you said that Seoul was just pretty well flattened. I mean, did we have facilities that we had put up for people there?
That was left.
Yeah.
We didn't put them up. I mean, we took them over. You know,
Okay.
like we went to Seoul to get some hamburgers. And the building we went into was 5 stories high, and the hamburger place, it was like McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
but it was in the 5th floor. And we had waited probably three hours before you could work your way up there to
Oh.
get them. And when you bought them, you better get at least a dozen at that time.
All right. Now, did you get to any kind of leave to go anywhere else?
I had one leave to Japan.
Okay. And where did you go in Japan?
Well, tell you the truth, I don't really know.
Okay. They just took you someplace.
Yeah, I just was. Well, I think it was in Tokyo,
Mm-hmm.
and I stayed at a hotel there. It was called the New Fuji Hotel.
Okay.
It was a pretty nice place for about a week.
Mm-hmm.
And you always found a girl that would take you shopping if you want to go shopping, and she could save you a ton of money.
Mm-hmm.
And stuff. I remember that.
All right. So how did the Japanese people treat you?
As your best friend, they were very nice.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did that surprise you at all, having grown up during World War
Not
II?
really. I think they, they had a problem as far as the Japanese and the Koreans.
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't. The Japanese really had to stay out of this
Yeah. Yeah.
peace
They had,
action.
yeah. They had been in Korea and were not very nice. So
Oh, yeah.
Koreans didn't like them.
Yeah. They raped that country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Now, if you think about the year that you spent in Korea, are there particular things that stand out in your memory that you haven't talked about yet?
Well, I was during one of the during the monsoons, which was in August, usually in late July and August. I was had to pull guard duty up out at the quarry where we had our asphalt plant and stuff, and I was supposed to be relieved after 4 hours because we had maybe 10 guys that worked out there at nights, so we supposedly took turns, but I never got relieved all night long. I know I fell asleep on guard duty, but it was pouring rain all the time, and there was a guardhouse there, so I didn't just sit in there and wait till morning. That was one thing I remembered, but somehow they got their things screwed up. When they didn't get the guys there, I didn't think it would create any problem or anything. Nobody else was. No, I didn't have to worry about anybody ever coming to take a crusher away.
Right.
So they might come and blow them up, but boy, it was raining hard.
Okay. Did you have any problems either with theft or sabotage or anything?
No, I don't really think so.
Okay.
I don't recall any.
So nobody was stealing a rock crusher or anything like that?
No. That would have been Southern Korea, but or North Korean place. Yeah, Southern Korea there. But,
All right.
The other thing that I noticed how them people, I really felt sorry for them. They went through all this big war and taken over by the Japanese, and now everything getting blown up. Like Seoul wasn't a bad city, I think, at one time, but it was flattened. And they rebuilt that whole thing, I understand, from what I see in them.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff, everything's rebuilt. So. In fact, Kimpo Air Force Base, we made larger airfield there, become their international airport.
Right. It still is.
So,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. Okay. So as you got sort of to the end of your enlistment, did the Army make any effort to encourage you to stay, or
Oh yeah,
what did they offer you?
nothing.
Oh, they just.
Nothing. I don't think they may have offered something, but I didn't. It was just I was ready to go home
Right. All right. Now, how did they get you back home?
by boat,
Okay.
but it only took us 9 days on boat.
All right. And was the weather better?
Yeah, we didn't have typhoon to fight.
All right. And where do you land in the U.S.?
It's San Francisco.
Okay. Now, did they discharge you there or send you someplace
Oh
else?
no, we got sent to Camp McCoy in Wisconsin.
Okay.
That's at Eau Claire, Wisconsin, and it was closed when we got there. And they had to call in a unit,
Yeah,
a
bees or
guard
something,
unit
yeah.
to
Yeah.
come in and reduce tours out. And I remember getting, I was the last one on the day before Thanksgiving
Mm-hmm.
to get it, but it was at about 12:15 in Thanksgiving.
Mhm.
So that was my Thanksgiving. I rode back. Well, I had a car. It was one of these. It was a '49. What was the cars we had, Rich?
35 Chevrolet.
No. That was these were newer ones. There's '49.
Oh,
You had one of them funny.
oh
backseat.
yeah.
What was the name of the car? They don't make it anymore, but
All right.
it was an automobile that made me. I did lose a tire and a thing going back home.
But you had a car at Camp McCoy?
Yeah, I drove home from home.
Okay.
Out there on Sunday before we checked in out there.
All right.
Of
Okay.
course, I got let go with civilian clothes because I had shipped my army clothes home
Mm-hmm.
from San Francisco and they never got there in time.
Oh, well.
Kaiser Fraser was the
Kaiser,
cars.
it was a Kaiser.
Yeah.
All right. Now, once you got back home, now what do? So you're out of the Army.
Well, I was lucky. I had been on a farm, but I always found a winter job
Mm-hmm.
in town in one of the factories or someplace.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had happened that year to stay on at VM Corporation. They made, what did they make? Phonographs, you know,
Okay.
and phonographic material. And I just stayed there for about 26 years and after that.
All right.
But they went bankrupt, so I had to find another job.
Okay. And when you look back at the time that you spent in the Army, do you think you learned anything from it, or if it affected you at all?
Yeah, I'll tell you, I wouldn't want to go through it again. But I wouldn't have given a nickel to go through it again.
Mhm.
But I think I got an education that the one thing that I noticed was how good we have it here in this country
Mhm.
compared to the countries over there.
All right. Well, thank you for taking the time to share the story today.